Hi everyone, my name is Adam Hayward, an Associate Director at Osborne Clarke in the Bristol office in real estate. And today I've got Anna and John who will introduce themselves to talk a little more about green regeneration and specifically John with Igloo Regeneration. So John.
So thank you guys. It's kind of you to invite me. I hope I know as much about this subject as you think I do, or that you don't spot that I don't if it turns out that way. So I'm John Long. I'm a development director at Igloo, and I also head up Igloo's development business jointly with a colleague who is based in the Nottingham office. She looks after the north. I'm based in Bath, and I look after the south.
Perfect. And Anna?
Thank you. Yeah, I am Anna Foraker. I'm an Associate Director in Osborne Clarke's planning team in the London office. I do a broad range of planning work, including energy work, contentious work, planning appeals, judicial review, all those kind of things. But my key focus is development, whether that's acting for house builders or other developers, strategic land promoters. And I also do a lot of build to rent development. But I'm also heavily involved in the promotion and development of Osborne Clarke's sustainability focus. So within the real estate and infrastructure sector, I lead on sustainable infrastructure, and also within Osborne Clarke's transformation drivers, I do lots in the decarbonisation stream. So I think, my daily job as a planning lawyer fits really well with everything I do on the sustainability side. And I'm sure we'll come on to talk about this lots today, but, sustainability is at the very heart of our planning system. So it marries well together.
That sounds very cool. And it does sound like you're an expert, so now I'm worried.
Perfect. Thanks, Faith. So John, can you tell us a little bit more about Igloo Regeneration, why you're doing green regen and why aren't others doing it?
Okay. I guess the first thing to say about Igloo is we've been doing what we do for quite a long time. In fact, we're coming up to our 21st birthday this year. So we've been going 20 odd years now doing what we do. It evolves a little bit over that time, but we were set up originally as an Aviva Investors Fund. We were described at the time by the United Nations as the world's first responsible real estate fund. We're a B corporation, a benefit corporation. If you've not looked at what those are, then and if you're watching this, then I'd really recommend, probably if you take one thing from this whole thing, that you check out benefit corporations. It basically gives us a legal duty enshrined in our articles to balance purpose with profit. So we're all about purpose. We have to make a profit, but we are about purpose, and our purpose is quite simple. It's to lead the way in making places that people love and the planet needs. And that sort of enshrines.
I love your strapline there.
Everything we do. Yeah. Well, that is it in a nutshell. That's kind of what we do. By definition, I guess if you set up to lead, then you're innovating. You want to find that you're at the forefront. So by definition, people are kind of behind you. But equally, we want people to follow. So it's always evolving. What being in front, what leadership and innovation looks like changes. But we do want people to see what we're doing, to think that it works, to see that it works, and then to follow behind. I often think of the Elon Musk quote. He said that there's no point beating a path through the jungle than laying landmines down behind you, and that's very much the way we see it. We want people to do what we do. We're not scared of competition.
Yeah. Do you think? What kind of time frame do you think the other developers are behind you, and let's say what are the barriers as to why they're not doing it right now?
I think there's been some inertia in the industry. I think I think fundamentally people get comfortable with what they know, and change is always a bit scary. You might find that you try something that doesn't work. So, if you've got a good system, if you've got a good product, almost why would you change it? It doesn't feel broke. But I think we know from things like the climate emergency, we've just gone through COP26. I think we're seeing that, everybody is waking up to this idea that, being responsible environmentally, particularly at the moment, is no longer a should, it's a must. And so I think you're seeing developers, house builders, funds, local authorities, the public sector, everyone realizes that this is now a must. So
Yeah.
I think people are going to follow very quickly.
Good.
And many already are.
Yeah. So you mentioned before that you were the world's first socially responsible infrastructure fund. Do you find that being green and socially responsible limits what you can do? Does it affect funding in any way, or does it help?
There's a yes and a no to that question. Yes, it does limit what we do to some extent. We have a screening process that we go through, and the first thing we ask ourselves when we look at a new client or a new project is, would this give us the ability to create positive social and environmental impact?
Yeah.
And sometimes we look at it and say, we just don't think we can make that work. We don't think we could achieve our purpose with that particular opportunity. And then we have a footprint process that guides our whole development process, that ensures that if we do take on a project, we do it in a way that does then deliver those impacts socially and environmentally. So yes, we have to be a bit choosy. Sometimes we find things aren't for us. The no answer is, because people are suddenly moving into this space, we find that actually we're unbelievably popular.
Yeah.
We're no longer the annoying ones doing things a bit different, and why do they have to do that? Isn't what we're doing good enough? We're now finding that funds and landowners are coming to us saying, we've got to do this stuff, and you've been doing it for 20 years. Can you help us do it? So yes and no.
Right. And then just thinking about on the planning side, is obtaining planning easier for Igloo? How do the local authorities respond to your green side? Is it positive?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. So it's not, I think what we do is probably not just being green. So, it's also about investing in design quality, in putting together great teams, good designers, great architects. It's about placemaking and community, just engaging with communities up front, but equally forming and catalyzing community at the back end of a project. So, if you're doing those things, you're pushing on an open door with planners. They like what we do. I mean, fundamentally, what is planning? It's a kind of regime to ensure that development outcomes are good, or in the negative, that they're not crap. Yeah. So if you go to planners with a fundamentally a good scheme that you've invested time in, you find that you're pretty well received. We've never had a planning application refused, not in our 21 years.
Yeah.
And we'd be pretty irritated if there was an objection, because that would have suggested we'd failed somewhere by not consulting as much as we should and not bringing people on the journey with us. So and it turns out, when you think about those things, that this isn't Igloo being cuddly or fluffy, though not having objections, not having refusals. I mean, there's a hard-edged commercial benefit to that, which funders like.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. And what are you seeing in the planning world at the moment that kind of impacts or benefits green, sustainable, community-driven developments?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as many people know, it's set out in our planning policy framework that the very purpose of the planning system is, of course, to achieve or contribute to the achievement of sustainable development. So any development that's coming forward, that's the fundamental concept that it always goes back to and has done for years, as John knows very well. And the things that you've just been saying, it's all about sustainability and the placemaking and the community. And I think that's more so than ever. I mean, in recent years, of course, sustainability has come to the forefront in social, economic, environmental, political agendas. And it's more important than ever. And I think we're also seeing growing political and legal support to help us actually achieve true sustainable development, which I think has always been a key challenge for us and continues to be. But I think the support is growing. We now have the planning white paper, which sets out an aspiration for the planning planning system to support, to combat climate change and maximise environmental benefits, and looks at things like improving energy efficiency standards and a focus on placemaking, which John's mentioned. And I know Igloo are really sort of hot on placemaking, and many people are realising that now has to be a fundamental part of your planning application and design process to have real success, I think. We also, I don't think, cannot mention the Environment Bill, which everyone's heard a lot about recently, especially with COP26, which was finally passed this month and is now on the final straight to becoming an act. And this is going to create sort of an overarching scrutiny framework for the environment, and outlines commitments to all sorts of things, such as biodiversity, which is obviously a real hot topic at the moment, and air quality. So I think it's just a sort of a move towards more support, both politically and socially and economically, of sustainable development, and just seeing how that's really started to push forward, particularly over, I would say, the last 2 years. And hopefully I know there's some nodding, but hopefully John agrees, because I think it's very similar to what John's been saying and what he's seeing in his developments that are coming forward.
Yeah,
it is, and we welcome it.
Yeah, it does sound great. It sounds great for the planet. It sounds like it's going to force more developers to get involved in this space. And Igloo and John, you're already at the forefront of that, so you'll be leading the way. So this all sounds super positive. There must be some downsides. So what challenges do you face doing development a little bit differently, a little bit better? What are the key challenges, and how do you overcome those?
It's hard work. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't have a cookie cutter approach to development that we do. So, to some extent, your systems, your processes, your ambitions, they can remain pretty constant. So you do have a framework around you, but each project is different, and we want to respond differently to each community we work in, and each place we work. So yeah, it's harder work, that things sometimes take a bit longer up front, I would say. Once we've established the vision and we've got people with us, then we can just crack on as you'd expect. But there's a little bit more perhaps upfront investment. Cost, the sorts of things we're doing in the housing arena at present are costing more. I can't deny that. We're using air source heat pumps now. We're taking our developments completely off gas. The scheme I'm leading with Nationwide Building Society in Swindon has gone completely off gas. That's 239 homes, all with air source heat pumps, all with PVs generating electricity, all reaching EPCA. Those things take time to get right, because those packages are relatively new to the market, and they are costing more. But I suppose I would say that we also know that those things and that package of design placemaking that we've talked about, on the other side of the sort of appraisal equation, also create value. And we saw this, one of the first times we really evidenced this was at a scheme that we actually worked on with Osborne Clarke, a scheme that I was leading at Caledonian Road in Islington, London. And we inherited a scheme from another developer. We were providing some funding. It's kind of a long story, but we took on a scheme that had been designed by somebody else. It wasn't a bad scheme, or else we wouldn't have been funding it. But we ran it through our footprint process, and we thought more about the design. We thought more about making it of its place. We thought more about the community. I worked personally with a lot of local people to get it right. And then we had two schemes. We had this, Brand X, and then we had the Igloo scheme. And we got two sets of agents just to value them as they saw them. And the Igloo scheme that had been through our footprint process, without any arm twisting from me, they valued 13% higher than the other scheme, which would have been fine and did have planning. And so, when you're adding 13% to an otherwise market-led scheme by another competent developer, suddenly you've got a little bit more to play with.
Yeah. And would your costs be around 13% more, or did you have more of a margin?
I think the cost probably went up 5 or 6%.
Amazing. Yeah. And okay, so I can see that there will be lots of people that would be willing. I'd be willing to pay more for that kind of property. I'm thinking on the planning side as well, and affordable housing and things like that. How does that fit in with your schemes, either in the past or where you see that in the future?
The planning side.
Yeah, well, and yeah, if there's a requirement for affordable housing, then how do you build that in, or do you think that will become more of a requirement in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing, our starting position is that we want to create balanced communities. So again, if I think about what we're doing at Oakfield and Swindon, we set out from the start there. When you're working particularly with a client like Nationwide, who is, who is also, a responsible business, your starting point with the planning process and with affordable housing is we're going to do it. That shouldn't be particularly groundbreaking, but I think we all know that it probably is. So there's no viability test. There's not, we are going to deliver, in Swindon's case, 30% affordable housing, and we've done it on a 10-year blind basis. So those houses are also EPCA. They also get the air source heat pumps. And again, planners want that. They like that. We took that product out. We pre-sold that product, those homes, to the affordable housing market on a conditional basis. And again, we didn't struggle to attract interest from RPs that wanted to buy that stock from us. They were excited that it's probably going to be among the best stock they've got. So yeah, I think there's and RPs, I think, have been generally ahead of the curve. RPs, also have a purpose, and they've been very quick to pick up on impact-led schemes.
Great, thank you very much. That all sounds brilliant, and I could talk to you about this to both of you all day, but I think it's a good point to wrap up there. I'm sure we'll be talking again very soon in the future, but thank you very much, both of you.